Important topic, drug abuse in the youth, perception and reality. And when one of the organizers contacted me and told me about this subject, I spoke to a few people and all of them seemed to have very different perceptions about this issue, which I later found out were very different than the reality that exists. It's a subject that we should all be talking about. Let me introduce myself. I'm Fariha Idris. I'm a journalist. I am a talk show host, and this is a subject that probably we should be talking more on media. That's my personal opinion, and I'm really glad that all of us will be talking about it. And we have a very powerful and dynamic panel with us here, who I'm sure will be enlightening all of us, including myself. So I look forward to listening to them. Let me introduce all of them to you. Sitting with me is Christina von Sperling-Afridi. And I'm sure some of you may already know her, but she has been very vocal about this issue because she had a personal loss. As we know, Ms. Christina is a Brazilian, but also the founder of the Karim Khan Afridi Welfare Foundation. So I'll be asking her a little bit about her personal experience, her foundation, and the issue that we're talking about today. I also welcome Fasi Zaka, needs very little introduction. He's a Pakistani television host, columnist, and also is now hosting his own television program. We all know him because of his satire. Thank you very much for being with us today. With us also is Mr. Deepak Parwani, again, a very renowned name in the industry. Thank you very much, Mr. Parwani, for being with us, and I'm sure we can learn a lot by what he will tell us about his experience of coming across youth and what he saw there. We also have Zahra Kamal with us today. She's a clinical psychologist. She's Islamabad-based and has been practicing clinical psychology for over 16 years. So a lot of experience, again, to look at and learn from. Thank you very much for being with us today. And then last but not the least is Asma Waheed. And she also has 14 years of experience in teaching and research. She has also worked as a freelance for the Network for Consumer Protection and was part of different projects related to smoking. Drugs is a wide topic, but when it relates to our children, our next generation, it becomes a personal matter. I'll start with you, Christina. How much are we aware and how seriously are we actually concerned about this topic? And when I say we, it's us, the nation, it's us, the media, it's the public, the parents. How much are we aware of this issue?
Is that after I lost my son, that I really focused on it. I knew that situation was not very good, but you know, as any one child can help to anybody. So the preoccupation, I always say that now I know where is my son is, but most of the people, they don't know where their son are. So it was a wake-up call. Actually, Karim's dad was a wake-up call for the society. I remember people were shocked. He was just 19 years old. I mean, an easy-going guy, and well, this is what's happened. And I had to decide what I'm going to do for myself. Because my dream, he was my only child, so my dream was with his dreams. And now I have to reinvent myself. And the only way I could find to continue to exist, let's say, it was that every kid is Karim for me now. So I said I have to fight whatever difference I can make. Maybe I'm in a winning side. Our foundation is focused on teenagers, and it is from 13 to 19. Right. The most critical 7 years of one's life, right. And we all been there. We know exactly what are the feelings, and and they are not different, the generation of today, maybe with a little less values. I'm sure that we will be talking for many, many other aspects there because it's an endless topic. But I think after, I broke the taboo, start to break the taboo, not broke the taboo, is still there, it exists. But to talk about. When you start to talk about, everybody feels easier to talk about as well. You see, because the monster is out there, and we have to deal accordingly. And we can only deal if we talk about. So we initiate that, and we have this foundation that is purely dedicated to teenagers, to the adolescents.
Right, you explained about your organization. It's good to know to raise awareness. How much are we aware, Fasi, about this issue? It's good to have an organization like like Christina's, but overall, awareness will start at home, then later at school, then through media. So are we actually going into a specific mass media campaign, or is the issue being discussed as much as it should be?
So I think we have to understand why drugs in school recently became an issue. So there was some reporting in the press which stated that about 70% of Islamabad students across all schools are, taking drugs. So I'm very skeptical on that. That is too high a figure, unless like...
It was 52, by the way.
It was 52, sorry. So in the press it was reported as higher. But again, so that means 1 of every 2 students is taking drugs, which I don't know what the sample was or how representative it is. So there is an element currently of a moral panic around schools and values and whether drug taking is suddenly on the rise or it's something really massive. I think the issue I see is that with drug taking, there is a practice that goes back thousands of years. Even some religions are founded on it, some practices are there. There are various natures of drugs, but what has changed at least in the past 1 or 2 years, and where I see the real problem, is that there is a new class of synthetic drugs. So when you take particularly organic drugs, they have, their addictive potential is on a bit of a longer stretch. With some of these synthetic drugs, because they're 100% pure and they're without any impurities, they tend to have a much shorter addiction cycle where you actually become an addict. And I think that's where the problem really lies, is that the informal, because even during when I was in school, there was drug taking, the number of people who became addicts. I mean, one of the big questions is also is that when you go down, and I think the one thing that hasn't been solved still, and I'm glad that there are foundations doing work on it, is that when you when you move from the recreational side, and there's a certain number of people who have an addictive personality, an addictive gene, and if you go on that spectrum, then the real thing is rehab. The thing is overcoming social shame. But right now, critically, is like, with crystal meth and ice and all these new drugs that have come into the system, your older understanding of what constitutes recreational drug taking is very different, because this has also changed in Pakistan. In 2000 to 2010, it became some synthetic drugs like MDMA, ecstasy. Again, their addictive potential is of a very different profile from the new class of drugs coming in. So I think one of the key questions is that, there is an understanding that at this age, and it's not new to these kids. It was there from our father's time before, because, Afim, bhang, all these things, they've got constituent components of the culture. And even in those times, there were a certain number of people who would fall in the throes of addiction. But where I think our understanding right now needs to change is with this new class of very potent synthetic drugs that are coming in, and people's understanding that, I can try once or get away from it or whatever, that doesn't hold like it used to. So I do agree that there needs to be a lot more in the way of education, because, like even in communities in the US and whatever, as crystal meth and these drugs came in, they did a total number of them in a way that other drugs hadn't before.
Right, so you're saying that there's a lot of new substances, so there should all the more reason for more awareness. You want to add to this, Christina? Please, then I'll go to
Yes,
Mr. Pravani.
actually, let's consider what are the teenagers' characteristics. So that the feelings that goes through teenagers, we've always been there, all of us. It's that risk-taking, the curiosity, that is all part of this. Of course, the human weakness, it's addiction. Each one has different one for chocolate, one for this, one for alcohol. It's what we want to make the students, the youth understand that, yes, we are all the same, yes, we all pass through, yes, we are super insecure. How we are going to do is emotions and feeling management.
Right.
It's understand that what you're passing through and how far you can go.
Absolutely,
So-
and I'll come to you, Mr. Pravani, from this point that what Fasi Zaka just told us, it's one kind of information that will go to an adult, to me or people here of a certain age group, but we're talking about youth, and that's why we talk about prevention at an earlier stage, and that's why awareness for parents is important. How much are we aware of the problem at the moment?
I think to look at it from a problem point of view, you also need to look at it from the earlier age point of view. If we take it as a problem, then we are saying that 52% of our kids or all of our kids are doing some kind of drug. And then when you say the definition of drug, what do you say? Is caffeine also a drug because people get addicted to caffeine? I'm just asking a question here. Okay, is all these energy drinks, are they also drugs because people are addicted to energy drinks? So there are different levels of drugs. What Fasi basically is saying is that yes, in the new age, with the new technology, have come the new synthetics, okay, and they're game changers. He also pointed out that in the past, you've already had it as far as part of our culture, anybody's culture milieu is concerned. If we end up in Amsterdam, you can actually walk into a cafe and have a cup of coffee and smoke a joint if you want to. And it's part of their culture as a country, for example. But what boils down to is how we are looking at today's youth and how we are looking at what is available today. So when technology has increased and the internet has come in and the new way of partying has come in, so has come the new synthetic drug phenomena, which is very interesting to see. As creatures of change or as creatures of experiment, all human beings pretty much have experimented with something or the other in their lifetime. Whether they've done it in college or whether they've done it in school, whether it was, trying a drink or smoking a cigarette, anything that is bad, that is considered bad at an early age, we all want to try. Okay, but that's part of the human nature. What we're looking at is today is from the society point of view and from the government, I would not say, but from a government point of view, okay, what have you done to keep the youth busy? What have you done to give them the extracurricular activities or the exercises so they can get tired? What do they really do after they've come back from home after 1:30? After they've done their homework at 4 or 5 o'clock? Okay, what happens then to their lives? Are they just supposed to sit in front of the TV like vegetables? Are they supposed to just go and play a cricket game and come back? Or are they supposed to go and hang out with their friends? Now friends are influencers. Okay, there's peer pressure. In today's day and age, you've got kids who don't want to go to school in a Suzuki car because your friend is driving a Mercedes or a better car, and mama, if they can drive a better car, why can't we have a better car? So there's a lot of peer pressure that is also coming in as far as the kids' own psychology is concerned and how they are thinking in today's day and age. They have more money or we have less money, or they can travel more and we can travel less, or they have more accessibility. And this all comes also from the values of what children or what schools are bringing in and where children are studying. Okay, I would suggest, and I hate to say this right now, but I guess the more expensive the school, more expensive the cars, the more expensive accessibility to synthetic drugs also. Right. So the dependency also comes from, that doesn't mean that the people who are going to poorer schools can't afford it. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm saying the accessibility increases. Okay, there's a certain level of what I would say in today's day and age, coolness, okay, that is associated with the idea. Though the idea is bad, and as creatures who do get addicted, like we do as human beings, on anything, and we like to do some favorite things, it's very difficult to disconnect yourself and think of it something that you tried on and moved ahead with life. Or charas as people, yaar bachpan mein try ki thi, ab to bade ho gaye. But then you see a lot of adults in today's day and age who've been smoking it for 20 years and 30 years and have not moved on. So the responsibility comes from not just also from the parent, but also comes from the organization, as in the schools and colleges that we are in. It comes from the government, as to look at it from the how do you want to direction your youth, where your youth should be going, where that energy should be spent, and how kids should be monitored.
Right. Important points raised, and I'll come to you now. Considering you have dealt with children who have been affected by different drugs, how do you make people aware? There's a lot of substance available. How much is it dangerous? Accessibility, acceptability, and then when exactly should the alarm bells go, and what should we do to prevent it?
So, Faria, I'll also like to sort of add to what some of the panelists have also said. And I think it doesn't just start from when children are 13-year-olds. It has to start at a much younger age. And there are known factors which make some of the children more prone to taking it as opposed to the others. And we can't generalize the factors and say all children will do it as a form of experimentation to get a rush. There could be other reasons. So there's a lot of talk about protective factors and risk factors. And some of the risk factors which we can pick up in children as early as when they are 7 or 6-year-olds. One is that if they have problems controlling their aggression, if they have problems controlling they have problems with self-control, they are poorly performing in school, they are academically not doing very well, or they have a history of mental illness in their own family, or they have an undiagnosed learning disability or a problem because of which there is added stress, or if they feel socially they don't fit in, they are bullied more, or because of their own sexual identity, their gender identity, or any other issue, they feel like they can't fit into the crowd. So they are more at risk. So if we start talking about these issues, if we start talking about general skills, how to handle your emotions, how to deal with your emotions, a number of children who are prone towards it or are getting into it may not need to, because they already have developed the skills. So ek hum baat karte hain na, educating them about the harmful effects of drugs. That doesn't work alone, right? That is important, but these are some of the things that need to be built. So as they grow older in their adolescent age, then what is school? Like Deepak mentioned, is sports more cool? Is hanging out with friends who don't do drugs more cool? I see a lot of young people and they're the only ones in their group, maybe they're not doing hash or they're not drinking or smoking. And so just to be in that group is difficult for them. So how do you make not doing it more cool? And these are some of the things. And then coming to, the new forms of substance, we know of so many children who are addicted to muscle relaxants, sports medicines, to relaxants in their parents' cupboard. So abuse of drugs there are illegal drugs, and then the abuse could be of the legally prescribed drugs. And those, of course, it has to be a multi-pronged approach. But when I talk about awareness, what happens is suddenly when the child is 13, 14, we start putting restrictions, we start talking about all the things, and that's the age where, even their brain is at this point not able to make the right decisions, and they're just sort of trying to cope with a lot of things. If they've had this information when they were much younger, the chances they're able to cope with the pressure. So what I'm trying to say is that for different children, it will be a different reason. I'll just quickly just say to a few more things, that there are a lot of children who may have gone through trauma, who may have depression, have a mood ailment, and we know that teenage is the age where is the onset of a lot of illnesses, right? And a lot of adults have come in and they said, you know, hum jab chote the, we had started taking this medicine because it would calm me down. It would help me focus. It would keep my anger under control. And now I've been diagnosed with bipolar, or I've been diagnosed with ADHD or with depression. So I think there is that aspect. So like what I'm saying is that we can't generalize. There'll be some who would experiment.
Right.
But there's a huge lot who can be helped with other important skills.
I think she said something very, very important. Do the parents even know the difference between illegal and legal drugs? She said, I mean, I remember these friends of mine, and now they're my age. I remember we used to laugh about it, and she always used to say कि मम्मी कहती हैं कुछ हो जाए Xanax खा लो ठीक हो जाओगे. And those kids were perpetually on Xanax. I remember that as a kid, they were perpetually on Xanax. So the question is, do even parents know that a sleeping pill or a muscle relaxant or any of these medicines, if used in a very large quantity, can also be drug dependency, legal drug dependency?
That's a very, very fair point, and I'll come to you, Asma, that that's where we started from, awareness. How much do we have to work on it? Because even about, as we know, legal drugs, you can get addicted with them. Are we aware of this? And then again, in Pakistan, we've had this debate. So how can we have even antibiotics of the counter, which is a very regular practice here, doesn't happen in civilized countries. So how do we raise awareness, not just amongst parents, amongst everyone?
All right, that's a very good point. Plus, we as individuals need to actually not work in isolation, like the parents working separately, or might be educational institutions working separately. All stakeholders need to work together to solve this problem. One thing is that what's first we need to realize whether this problem is really serious or not. I read in a recent news publication is that 700 people die every day in Pakistan because of drug addiction. And that's quite a large number. It's more, the ratio is more than that of the terrorism as well. All right, so moving on to the next point is that what indulges our youth into drug addiction? Two reasons are there. First, they are not emotionally intelligent. They don't know how to actually go through their emotional states. So to ease their emotions, they take drugs. Second is, it's now becoming part of our lifestyle now. All right? So people take drugs because they feel fun in it, they feel recreation in it. So what initially starts as alcohol or marijuana, you don't know when it's going to turn into cocaine. The reason is that because initially you started with the alcohol to ease your, or you want to feel high. So what eventually happens is that your brain started taking it strong. With the passage of time, that intensity decreases, and then you need something more strong. So in that case, then it eventually results into drug addiction. Now moving on to this, the last point, is that we don't need prevention. We need persuasion. We need to persuade our youth about it. I take Pepsi. My friends tell me that you are not supposed to take Pepsi, but I still take it every day. It's like you cannot ask youth, or you cannot ask a conscious adult person to stop it. They know the side effects. They know what's going to happen to them. What we need to do over here is that we need to persuade our youth. We need to set goals for them. We need to actually inform them that taking this in the longer run is going to hinder your performance, as Ma'am Zahra said, that it might be the school performance, or maybe it's the educational instability. So what we need to actually inform them is that this drug abuse is actually going to affect them in the longer run.
Right. So make the child aware. But I'll come here now to the other part. We've discussed about how much are we aware, but I think at that certain age, because it's a large age group that you told me where people are vulnerable towards drugs, but at an early stage, we have to say a forceful no to drugs. But then how are these drugs available? When we come to prevention level after awareness, you can talk about your personal case also, but most of these cases, the dealers were found in the school or somewhere around the schools. How can that be stopped?
The last talks that we have done in schools in Lahore for the teenagers, we were shocked to learn that technology reached even the drug dealers. Today there is an app in Pakistan that you download this app, and the closest drug dealer, you will know where he is. So you can run
like
from
site.
You can run from it.
I think
It's
Mr.
like a
Bhavani,
dating site.
Yes, dating site.
I
You
think
can run from it, but you are not. They will catch you. We all know that this is a multi-billion dollars industry around the world. Pakistan is not alone. But because of lack of implementation of laws and lack of entertainment, engagement with the youth, you know, if I give you some data here, she's rightly so, 700 people die daily from illicit and licit drugs. Not only the illicit, but there is this Xanax and all things. And actually, we have not realized that we have 66.6% of our population is youth age below 25, which makes 135 million our contingent, our youth contingent. And within this 135 million, 35% is under age of 15, right? So how are we going and are engaging them? I just want to mention that the government needs to be, because there is a huge gap between government and civil society, that's for sure. But the government previously have done something. At this point, I want to call attention for the schools, and we've been talking about schools and their responsibility as well. In 2005, in the Constitution of Pakistan, it was made sports policies that say that every education institution should have 4 hours and 4 games per week. Today, the UNESCO statistics shows that Pakistan is the lowest country which implement this policy. So in the policies, the article says that education institutions which not following this articles or this law will not be able to function.
Right.
So right now, that's my question. I mean, obviously, Beacon House has campus, playgrounds, and my question is to the government, which I put to Minister Baligur Rahman, what's the criteria that they give license for every next door to be a school, for start? So we have to have something. And secondly, the physical engagement, and we have this program, sports is the answer. If you look what is our, in the chart of the Olympics, where is Pakistan?
Absolutely
There's
correct.
nowhere to be seen.
Very important
And you
question.
can see what is the United States #1 in the chart of Olympics, and what is not United States. You see China, what is China in the world? You see UK had invested tremendously in things, so they are climbing the ladder. And we have, Russia also. So what are these countries and what are we with this 135 million contingent?
Absolutely.
Obviously, definitely
Yeah, I
something
wanted
wrong.
to
An
also
important
add-
question.
yeah.
If we can come to, you
Sure.
want to add to this?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to what she mentioned about the sports. So there's some work done in Iceland, and they've been trying to control their, the smoking among teenagers, and drinking habits were one of the highest in Europe.
Right.
And so they had a program which sort of spanned over 20-25 years. What I'm trying to say, whatever we do has to be long term. It can't just be a media campaign here, a one-off thing there. And so what they found, the few things they found useful was, one was that children were engaged, it was compulsory
Yeah,
for
but
them
that's
to be
the law that
engaged
we
in
have.
sports activities 3 to 4 times a week. They had to spend more time with the parents. They had to feel, they had more bonding in schools, and there was a curfew on children from teenagers from staying out at night for too long.
Yeah.
And they found these were some of the factors which helped sort of
And done
deal
through
with
states.
it.
This was done through
In
state
Iceland.
levels.
In fact,
This
it's
was done in
very-
Iceland, and I wanted to just say that the sports also, not just sports for the sake of sports. For example,
Of course,
in
competitive
the sports,
sports,
if they're using sports enhancing drugs, if they have these snooker clubs and all where they are selling drugs,
This is
then
not
that is
sports.
something we need to watch out, because then the government may blindly open sports clubs.
Yes.
But this is important to keep in mind, that the drugs are not there.
Prevention, I'll come to Mr. Fasizaka now. We're talking about prevention, that most of these schools found out that the dealers were within the school or somewhere close by, so accessibility. But once you stop drugs, and you must, what's the alternate solution? I'll come to you also if, after Mr. Fasisaka.
I think as far as enforcement goes in schools, I mean, that's a responsibility they have to take. There's absolutely no excuse for a school to have a drug dealer on call over there. But I think one of the problems is that if we take into account a certain degree that there is an inevitability that kids will try some form of drug or the other, where I find it very interesting is, you know, how parents deal with that and how they explain it. Because the key thing for a child is relatability. You can give any kind of message that's anti-drugs, but if they don't feel the messenger is on the up and up, they'll not necessarily take that message in. Which is why if you just have you know, public service messages, you're not going to necessarily get that level of thing. But what I find is, in terms of relatability, a friend whose brother had died of alcoholism, he explained it to me best, and which I think, if in the minds of an addict, if you can just get to that, which was that he said that when he was sober, he didn't like who he was. And the fact that goes to the root of you have some other problem, which is why you're choosing to disengage from life in terms of highs that you are engineering chemically. And what that is, how parents and, you know, social groups can do. The other problem, which I think most people sometimes don't appreciate, is that if you get an addict to quit, and in the case, again, this anecdotal evidence is that with this friend of mine, he said when his brother quit for a period, he had no friends. Because that act of taking drugs, remember, there's a spectrum of how far you go in drug usage. It starts off with experimenting, then it's social, and then when it becomes extreme, you go back to using it alone, but in much heavier quantities, not necessarily without that. And then for them to be disengaged from any kind of sort of mutualization, having friends and whatever. So I think the real key is that there was a film, and it had an opening that was really striking, which related to a lot of people. And it was like, you know, people, it's called Train Spotting.
I was going to say that.
Exactly, right? That opening. And if you get that, I remember reading about how addicts related to that film. And it was because the opening was that the guy who is an addict is saying is, you see as us as people who are pitiable, who are people who don't deserve society's empathy and whatever, and that, you know, we're not having a good time, but he says, I'm having a great time.
Right.
I absolutely love this. Now, I'm not saying that feeling is correct, but understanding what they're thinking is the key to getting them extricated from any kind of substance abuse.
It's good to look into the mind of an addict or a person who's about to become one, and here the persons can be very little. It could be 12-year-old or 13-year-old, Mr. Parvani. So how important it is, first of all, is it what should be the punishment for the dealer? Are we implementing that punishment at state level?
I think we're
And
going
then
too
how do
far as far as the punishment is concerned. I think prevention, when we're looking at a question which is prevention, prevention is not just the sole responsibility of the schools and colleges that your children go to, because they only go to the school and colleges for a certain period of time. Then there's a time that they hang out with their friends, and then there's a time that they come home. Now, for somebody who's in the kind of business that I am, I have this opportunity to kind of know many people from all kinds of walks of life. Now, the perception also, the preventive perception is very different, and it changes from person to person to person. I would say that, for example, if you're liberal and you have a drink at your own house where the parents drink, they're okay with their son having a drink, or their son or their daughter having a drink also when they come of age, for example. If you're coming from a very conservative house where you don't allow smoking to happen also, where you don't allow anything to happen, and you keep to a strict rule of law, okay, then you need to monitor why your child is changing, or while your child is going through that process that he or she is going through. As in, why is he locking the door for too long? Why is she locking the door? Why is the friends always inside? Why is he looking scruffy? Why is he dressed badly? Why is her eyes red? I mean, these are things that parents, especially I would say mothers, should be able to notice about their kids as they've brought up their kids. Okay, I can even in today's day and age tell you that I've also sat and seen parents doing drugs with their kids and being very cool about it. Okay, so it differs from people to people to people. Okay, it is. I mean, nobody can bear the loss of a child, and what happened with Christina was awful, and it should actually be an example for parents in the future to actually look at their kids and monitor their kids' friends and see what's going on. So the responsibility also lies not just with the schools and colleges, but with you. You should be able to detect the change in your own child. And if you can't do that, if you think that you don't have the time just because you're so cool or so busy doing something else, then you've got it wrong also. As far as you're concerned, you should be able to change, you should be able to tell as to why your child has changed that fast or that tremendously in that age, which is a dangerous age, the 13 to 19 age. This is the age when everything happens. You lose the age of innocence. You know, you discover your sexuality. You question your morality. You question your people that you want to hang out with, the social circles that you want to develop, and the friendships that you want to make to move on forward with life. Right. This is the age when you're finishing your A levels, your O levels, and you're going to be going into college. Right. So it's a very delicate balance, guys. To blame a school, it's unfair. To blame just the parent is also unfair. Okay, it's a package together.
And I know, Christina, you want to add here, but let me put this question sent by Tahir Abdullah, because what you said, Mr. Parvani, it's related to that. Should we be able to recognize, and then there's a class system that is at play here also. You talked about poor schools and rich schools earlier on.
I didn't mean it. When I meant poor schools, I meant in terms of accessibility. I'll give you a simple example. When we were growing up, our parents did have the money to send us to holidays 10 times a year. And we were always traveling. So I'll be honest again, if my father offered us a drink, a glass of wine or a glass of champagne while we were in London, it was considered very okay to have a glass of champagne or a glass of wine. It just never became something more than just that. So it also became very normal to, if it was offered, to say thank you and no. Human being, as we are creatures. The more you tell us to stop something, the more we would like to try it. And that applies to all of us. Okay, you tell a child don't open the fridge ka darwaza, she will open the fridge ka darwaza whether you try to stop her as many times as you want.
Right.
That's human nature.
So I think Christina wanted to add to the topic about...
Yes, I also wanted to add to what Deepak was saying.
Okay, we'll come to you because there was another question sent here, and they say there is a topic taboo for parents to discuss and make their children aware.
We have three types of talks. We talk with parents because it seems that they're really unaware. And then we talk with the students, directly the student, and with the teachers. So there are three kinds of talks. But when we talk about prevention and awareness, and you say the prevention...
Persuasion.
Persuasion.
Yes.
This is all part. Prevention should be there too. You cannot erase. Let's talk about that. We were first contact with the education systems, and it was our contact. It was very welcome. And what we used to tell to the education systems is, you are protecting yourselves, because the tendency of the parents, they said, the drugs in the school. So I said, the moment that you have a subject, extracurricular subject, that talks about drug awareness, you will also protect the education institution as well. Because they said, don't tell that I didn't tell him what it is. I mean, we had passed. But after school hours, it's an obligation of course, the family to know, to track them down. But I tell you, it's not easier, because, and taboo, Deepak, you come from a entertainment, let's say, industry, and when you talk about that, we all had tried something or the other in the olden days, but we did not have the exposure that we have today after the computer and website was invented. Yeah. I mean, there is no innocence anymore. Today I can see that if you talk 10 years old, he doesn't know what is this and that, and worse. And I have to tell here that Pakistan is the country that most consult pornographic sites. This is also a very sad affair, and this is it's true. So the entertainment industry, I I blame the censorship and the words, not here, the glamorization of drugs.
Right,
You know,
right.
because you are rich, famous, and you have drugs, and you have women, and you party all the time. Drugs all relate to this glamorization
So-
that should stop.
Wrong messaging from media, which we were going to come to, and you want
What
to
you
talk about
basically
that?
meant
I
was
just
that,
want
that the age of innocence is gone.
A bit after the
I just want to,
invasion of social media.
while
no?
we're discussing this issue, I just want us to keep in mind the age appropriateness of something, right?
Right.
And how, when you're much older, you try something.
Yes.
How is it different from when children start trying it from a younger age? And I think that could be one important area to look at, because of course we can't, and it can't be lecture based. We can't just say, please don't do this, stop it, because that doesn't work at all. It has to be something where children are able to share their thoughts, talk about it, and that's why I say it just can't be drugs in isolation. It has to be about other things, about managing anger, about coping with stress, about coping with the pressure of exams, about being more assertive, saying no when you don't want to take try a drug, but all your friends are trying it. So that is very important. And while we assume that children know a lot, and they do know because of internet, but a lot of information they may have about drugs or smoking or other substance abuse, they may not have the complete information. So I think there also the education needs to continue, but it can't be lecture
And
based,
if
because
that-
we have seen it doesn't
Specify
work.
the
No, it
schools'
doesn't work.
roles, because I'm sure many schools would like to know, and they're having these debates within themselves, that what exactly the school needs to do,
Yeah.
what should be their role?
Are you asking
Yes,
me? Yeah.
because
So
you're
I
working
think,
with schools.
I think what I would like to say is that it will vary from school to school. So if Beacon House has a school in Islamabad and has a school in Muzaffarabad or Sialkot, what is the reality of the area there? What are the stresses there? Where are children getting drugs from? What are the influences? We can't just have one strategy that will fit, but whatever the strategy is, it has to be long term. It has to start when they are young. You have to see what's happening in the canteens, what is the staff doing, who's standing outside and providing that. So there is one, the careful monitoring and supervision. The other is having discussion with children. Because I know a lot of times children would say, yeah, we get those lectures, they come in and we listen to them and we just, we know what it is. But unless and until, if the children are sitting quietly and not talking, that means they're not buying what you're saying. So their ability to ask, their ability to understand what are the other issues, what are the other life skills and problems they have. And a better understanding generally, like she has also said, of emotional health, mental health, which child is frustrated, who's failing, who's not doing well, where is the coolness coming
Like
in.
you-
So I think those are some of the things we need to do. I just want to say one more thing, sorry for taking a lot of time, that there are some of us who cope and by confronting issues, and some of us, we just want to calm down and relax. So research has also seen that people who want to feel excited about things and they want to confront head on, they'll be prone to taking drugs where they get the excitement. And those who want to put their mind at rest, not have too many thoughts, they'll be more prone to taking drugs that relax them. So if we are able to identify what is happening with children and what are some of other non-drug related things that can relax them and that can give them the high, so we may have a solution.
Right, I
and
know
we may
Mr.
be able to work
Parvani
on
wants
this.
to add to it if you'll
I just
allow-
want to
be quick, sir, because she's
I
going to-
just
yes.
want to say one thing, that it's very easy to sit on a panel and discuss something. We never asked our children or the children that are sitting here today, okay, as to what they go through as far as their schools are
The
concerned.
pressure.
High school or college or day school of peer pressure of being in the right crowd, hanging out with the right friends, not being accepted in the same class, kids making fun of you. Kids can be really evil when they're kids. Okay,
They
we
can
all know
bullying,
that. Okay, very evil. Okay, and the kind of stuff that we all went through when we were in schools. You know, the fat girl, the ugly girl, the fat boy, the kid who couldn't talk properly, the kid whose English wasn't good enough, or the teacher's pet, the it girls and the it boys on the side. Oh, this happens in every school. Whether it's an expensive school or a poor school or a school in Muzaffarabad or Karachi or Peshawar, no, everywhere. Okay, वो हर जगह पे this always happens in the school environment. So
right.
ask the kids what they have to go through to, finish their metric and their A levels or their O levels, and what they go through to
Right.
be just accepted.
Right. Let me come to Asman. I'll come to you, Fasi. I know you want to
Alright,
talk about the
I'll
pressure,
just-
the peer pressure we're talking about here, and
Alright.
other pressures that youngsters have. And there's another question
Yes.
from the audience which says that in the past few years, a lot of students have died because of drugs abuse, and they've given names of a few, like a college also. But we haven't seen open talk about that in the
That's
media.
Right now, I'll build onto it with some of the discussions that's been earlier going on. What Ma'am Christina said about the mass media, yes, mass media do play a vital role in it. We all must have seen a drama going on in television these days that's related with transgender. I've seen my colleagues, I've seen my friends talking about transgender rights now that they actually refused to talk about it earlier. So mass media is actually there to create awareness. What Sir Deepak said was about regarding the schools, what's the peer pressure is. Now, when I was back there in my graduation, there was a friend of mine who was a drug addict. I went back home, I talked to my mother about it. She didn't say me at that, Asma, don't you dare even sit with her. What she did with me was that she said that this is your goal. If you'll be taking drugs, you'll be ending up with graduation. You might not be reaching there. Well, like at that time, my dream was going into the NCA. Now, on a softer note, I didn't go to NCA still. But what the thing is that you need to set goals, whether your teachers, whether your parents, you actually need to set goals for students, for your kids, for the students. One of our family members, they get a chance to visit Sudan a couple of years back earlier. Sudan was among the most populated drug addict country back there in 1991. What she reported me was that there was parks everywhere, there were gyms everywhere. What they educated their children was their looks, was the other, they suggested alternates to it. What we are talking about right now is that children are going through this thing, children are going through that thing. But what we need to do right here now is that we need to suggest alternates to them. We need to design long-term or the short-term goals to them. We need to indulge them.
And there's a question here also. I know, Fasi, you want to talk about the pressures that children go through or students go through. I don't know who sent this question, but they say that most of 13, 14 years old are focused on their O levels or A levels, and after that they have no idea what they will be doing. And the goal is just to get good marks at that time. So are we failing to make our children more oriented towards their future also? That's a question. But Fasi, you wanted to add to the pressure?
I just wanted to add one thing is that, 20 years ago when I was in college, at that time I grew up in Peshawar, and there Peshawar is interesting because chars is available. It's almost decriminalized because it's a low profit drug. You've got heroin dealers to find, you don't follow up on that. And then, but what was interesting is that in sort of that circle in colleges was that chars didn't have that sort of connotation, but being a heroinchi did, right? And a heroinchi was viewed as exceedingly negative and poor because there was a realization that maybe you could have, the withdrawal was less severe for one over the other. And what we found was that, a lot of people who actually became addicted to hash were people who treated it then as a gateway drug. So they were going to be sort of addicted anyway because they had a component of their personality. But what I found really recently interesting was going to schools is that this connotation that we have right now is that whereas we had in what was our permissive end and what was the bad end. But what I'm seeing in schools right now is that the whole spectrum of drugs is seen as a way to fit in, as a way to be part of something bigger, and it's not, some of those negative connotations don't exist in that way. One of the reasons though is, of course, is that you've got a very restrictive family setup, and that control was easier 20 years ago where you could even determine who you met and who you didn't. Right now, even if you're locked in your bedroom, you can talk to somebody 2,000 miles away.
Yes.
And that particular culture has become expansive and permissive, where there is a problem definitely in schools, and I think Deepak got it absolutely right, where this, it may be a bit trite to say this, but this material end of the fixation where it's all about the me and there is nothing larger. There is a problem that that vacuum is being filled by things like this, which allow you maybe an experience over something substantial.
A very, very important point. Can I just add this, because that's a very important question or whatever experience shared by one of the younger members here. She's given me her name. I'm not going to reveal it, but it's very important for all of us to see that. She says, many of the people in my class have been taking drugs for a long time and have offered drugs, pills, cigarettes to me as well, because I would say, no, they used to call me a wimp. I did not care. I've always kept my distance from them and always felt blessed to have my special 2 friends who did not take drugs. Until now, recently my best friend has started taking drugs too. Now I have only 2 options. Number 1, I can cut off from my friend and be called a wimp. Number 2, join them. So please tell me what to do. I need help.
Can I answer that? Can I answer?
That's very brave of you to write this down.
Yeah. Can I answer that? Yes. Well, you already have the conscience that this is not good for you. So you leading yourself, you owning yourself. So that's, I'm sure that if you need further help, we can help you to instruct. That's what we are doing with the students. It's to powering them to be what they want to be and not what others want them to be. So we will help right now we cannot just talk about.
You could, whoever person here,
yes,
could
please,
contact
and be a
Christina's
volunteer in
organization.
our foundation as well, because this is for you.
Or
I think
talk to
as we try to understand why they get drugs, we had forgotten that the data by Anti-Narcotic Force says that this is from 2015. We have 8.9 million drug addicts. It's not a joke. Right now, we are in an alarming situation. Like this girl just mentioned, everybody in my class, they're taking drugs. You see, to justify that in our old age, we used to do this, we used to do that. People are dying, and they are covering up because the parents themselves feel guilty. That they feel guilty that, oh my God, where I went wrong. Because no parent wants to lose a child. So they immediately blame themselves, and like any other things that it's a taboo here and controversial, we put under the carpet. This society had enough traumas from childhood as sexual abuse, and so many others justification that you will convince yourself that I will never be able to share this, I will never be able to expose this skeleton, so I will take some Xanax or Lexotan, and that's fine. In fact, this kind of pill, I can send my driver to pick it up. So there are 2 things here that we have to regulate it. It's in my country, for instance, in Brazil, if you get a prescription to buy a Lexotan, it will last 2 days. If you didn't buy in 2 days, it means that you don't need it. And if after 2 days, your prescription is non-valid. So you have to again go to the doctor, pay another fee to get another prescription for you to go back there. So here I can send my driver to go and pick it up. So what I think is that without the community, the civil society, without the parents and the education in school, we are not going to achieve anything.
Absolutely.
It's a combined effort, and definitely we have to get together and ask the government, hey, what you're doing about
I
this.
absolutely
want
agree.
to,
Please, if you could address
Yes, I
the
just
little girl's
want to
question.
first of all say to this young person who shared that thank you so much for sharing. And it takes a lot of guts and it takes a lot of energy to say no to something which everybody is doing. And believe in the fact that what you're doing is important. Them calling you names does not make you that. And I think that's very important to remember, that whoever you are and if whoever pressures you into something, not doing that doesn't make you that person. It's something, it's an issue that they have, and that's very important to recognize. The few friends that you have, one friend you said who's not doing it, I think it's important to stay connected to them and to continue your, if you want to continue your relationship with them, that's okay as well. But you can assert yourself. You can tell them, listen, I'm going to stay friends with you, but this is not something I'm going to do. And if the pressure you keep pressuring me, then I'll probably have to be the person not to be friends with you. But I think it's important to also understand that I understand that the pressure is so much because वो जो coolness factor और जिसकी हमने पहले भी बात की है, we need to demystify that. We need to talk about the fact that those who are not doing drugs are also cool, and there are other ways of being cool also.
And in time, you'll realize that.
I think it's very, very brave of you to say what you said. And by saying that they've offered you cigarettes and they've offered you pills, that means the party is on. So the answer would be that you can still go to a party and have a great time without doing drugs.
Absolutely. And
That's what the right answer should be.
Absolutely.
So if you want to go and enjoy yourself with your friends, go ahead, dance on that podium all night if you want to, and you can be wise and make your own personal choice by not doing the wrong thing.
I agree, and I'll just quickly give my own example that at probably the same age that you are, I went to a party with my friends, and the same thing happened. We were in Peshawar, and it was a group of girls, and they were planning to experiment with something, and I said no at that time. And I was called names, but I'm really glad that I said no that day. So whatever choice you're making today will stay with you for the years to come in your life. So very well done with that. I'll come to, I think Christina just answered the next panel, so I'll come to you, Mr. Fasizaka. The role of the schools now, and I know you said that the figures that we get, we seem not to believe them, but then we get a letter like this from the students, so maybe the problem is something that we have not grasped yet. And maybe even the schools are grappling to know what to do with it. So the question here is that teachers are the first point of contact with children. What does the panel say about teachers being counseled with a child psychologist? Because as I'm coming from a different time, the teachers are coming from a different time as well. So maybe the teachers need to be counseled too?
I think fantastic point, actually. When we went to college in the US, we had a teacher's counselor and a student counselor. So whenever a student had an issue, whether it was a drug-related issue, any kind of issue, parental issue, fees issue, you had to go to your counselor and have a chat with your counselor. And I think what you guys have just hit the nail on the head. I think every school should have a teacher's counselor and a student's counselor. So if not anything, they're not a psychiatrist, but at least there's somebody wise enough to give those teachers and those children that advice, because in today's day and age, we cannot say that all teachers are exposed, or all teachers are the same, or all teachers are enlightened, or all teachers know everything. And the same thing goes for the students.
Yes.
So great idea that in every school, if the first thing that should be implemented is a teacher's counselor and a student counselor. It should be part of the curriculum.
Right. Asma wants to add to that.
I'll build on to this thing. It's like being part of something in the curriculum. We here in Beacon House, we have introduced a new subject that's called personal, social, health and emotional well-being, where we actually give an insight to the students, to their behavior, and we actually build on their attitudes. And having such subjects in the classroom, giving probably 40 minutes in a week is more than enough. It's actually giving them insight to their behavior, and that counseling part, probably it's the manpower not available, or probably it takes a lot of time to, prepare the counselor around us.
This is not what I meant. I mean, in every American school,
Right.
okay, and if any one of you have seen Glee as kids, for example, you can walk into your counselor's office. The question that this girl just asked us, she should be able to go and ask her counselor.
Absolutely.
And
Right.
the counselor should be discreet enough to give her a proper advice.
Yes.
Okay, this is a question that has nothing to do with parents. This is a question that has nothing to do with teachers, friends, or anybody. This should be a neutral question that was asked, and a neutral person should be able to give her a clear thought process.
And we
A
don't-
point of contact.
And
Thank
we
you.
don't share
And
things
somebody
with
that you feel
parents
safe
anyways.
with by saying, "Ke, my friend is doing drugs," the counselor's job is to be discreet,
Be discreet about it.
respect the student and her privacy. Okay, and that question doesn't have to be just about drugs. It can be about her sexual, any issues. I mean, any hidden issues. Maybe she's coming from or the kid is coming from a very conservative background or a conservative gharana and cannot ask these questions at home. So at least there's someone to help the kid, almost like a psychiatrist, but on a milder level. That's all.
Right. We have to wrap this up now, but I'll ask you this question to Fasi, and then others can comment on that as well. The general scenario or atmosphere of a country also plays a role. If you remember, there was Hemingway talked about it, about the lost generation after Second World War. We have been going through a war. It's a post 9/11 world. The socio-economic issues, do they relate to what's happening in schools and colleges today?
So I think just to answer one bit of the previous question, I think one of the problems is, and I hope it's not that way, but if you get somebody, I think one of the things that is in excess supply in Pakistan is preaching, right? Talk
Yes.
is really cheap. We see it on the news. We see it in the radio. You'll hear music. You'll hear somebody telling you. I don't think anybody has not been told to do the right thing in this country. But the key thing is you want to listen to the messenger. So when it's teachers or like as he said, a counselor, because like that question is what people are really looking for is a friend who does not judge them on any basis, but acknowledges that their pain is real, right? Whether they like it or not is irrespective to that. So I think one of the key things is when it comes to teachers especially is that if they're seen as overbearing moral authorities, they will not necessarily get any leeway in that front. So that has to be something done very carefully. Secondly, I do agree with you. I think that we are in a very unique situation in Pakistan. I mean, I had a friend who went through the newspaper and said, why aren't you guys doing drugs, right? Because there's so much pressure every day, uncertainty and things like that. And I think that just adds to that certain element. It's not justifying it, but people do seek release. So some countries have figured it out with sports, with other organizations. But I think one thing which is kind of difficult is that when you penalize an expression of having fun, in whatever terms there are, then you're going to have to go for the way that is not sanctioned, not approved. I remember when YouTube was banned in Pakistan, and it was really funny. Everyone was making the argument, what if we wanted to do some research? And somebody then said, why can't you make the argument, what if I just wanted to have fun online, right? But because that space is low, and when you purposefully sort of engineer a very narrow space, you're going to find more people doing things like this.
Absolutely, and would just have to, I've been told I have to wrap it up, but you can
I
certainly
just
answer.
want to, this is also for the parents and schools, is that I heard a principal of a school in Singapore just before the exams, that the big tension built between the parents and the kids, and she sent a letter to all of them, parents, saying, parents, mind you, before the exams. In this class, there is one artist. In this class, there is one engineer. There is a class, there is a singer. There is class, there are many. Because what it became like a stereotype. No? Everybody has to be a doctor. And, that pressure. And where is your creativity? That it's gone because you are under pressure, not only but to be a real doctor. You have not succeeded how to live a life of sports, for instance. And in this regard, I just want to add one thing that I always tell the students, that God has given you your own kick, which is the endorphin. When you are doing sports, you generate your own kick. You become happier. Is this so natural? And if you are happier, why should I go to something that, an extra thing that
healthy
So this is
ways of
automatic, that sports is the answer. In commitment, and just one add here, that we have not to forget the traumas that the young population goes through. Before we have 3 safe places in Pakistan,
Right.
specifically. We had our school, our place of worship, and we had our house.
Right.
Well, after APS, we might not talk about, for these kids, was a great tragedy. And insecurity, again, am I going to go to school and
that's
get
what
killed? A place of worship has been bombed, mosque, church, all over. So you have not free to go there. So you remain at home, which is your last thing, and seeing the world through the lenses of a computer, which might not really give lots of information, but not wisdom. So it all gets disturbed.
It's a very interesting debate, and unfortunately, we have to now wrap it up. But we were talking about the socio-economic pressures and the special time that our country is going through. Thank you very much, all of you, for contributing. And special thanks to all of you for sending your questions here also, and especially to that little girl. The key point here is that you have to be aware. It's everybody's responsibility. We have talked about what the schools can do, we've talked about what parents can do, and the state must do. But in the end, it's us. It's just you. You're an individual, it's your life, and it's your choice. So be aware and make that choice vigilantly. Thank you very much.